Most people think that the only way to damage your liver is through alcohol. If, like you said, if I'm not drinking, my liver's probably fine.
Yeah.
But in reality, severe liver damage is being caused by non-alcohol reasons, which are, what are some of those?
Processed foods, ultra-processed foods, preservatives of foods, basically chemicals or things that are synthetic or not native to the human body. When you enter 100,000 plus chemicals into the human, basically, diet in the last 100 years, we haven't hereditary grown up to that, dealt with that, evolved for that, and the body doesn't know how to deal with it. A Diet Coke, or more of a threat than sugar or fat would be.
So that's how some of these chemicals lead to fatty liver, is because the liver has a certain capacity for detoxifying, and it shifts its attention towards the chemicals in our food and our drinks. And like you said, that's so interesting because, I think there's a big story to be told here about how your liver fits into the puzzle of metabolic disease as well. Siggi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Can't wait to talk all things liver with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it.
So I wanted to just start off the podcast episode today just talking about what you're most passionate about nowadays. What is the one thing that makes you just light up and want to just scream something from the rooftops?
More and more I get just impassioned and invigorated and emboldened on regenerative health and mostly root cause medicine. And as you said very much at one of your talks I listened to is, functional medicine is getting in front of it. And I think the ability to change and course correct somebody's entire health journey through preventative medicine and knowledge and preventing illness, I think is just a beautiful thing, as opposed to us trying to put the fire out with reactive medicine that we all grew up with. Is now actually, let's make sure the house never even catches on fire.
No, that's my passion as well. We share a common passion there because it makes all the difference to have that mindset instead of the mindset of, let me just live this grandiose, crazy life until I hit a brick wall and now all of a sudden I need a pharmaceutical or a surgery or, you're trying to reverse course, makes it, like you said, course correcting early is the key.
Yeah.
And I totally appreciate that. So where does the liver fit into all of this?
So the liver it's a master organ, and it's incredibly well-known, respected, and as a focal central point of Eastern medicine, whether it be Ayurvedic, Persian Ayurvedic, Chinese, for 5,000 years of Kapia, it has it's the general of the body. And in Western medicine, it tends to be overlooked, not really understood. Most of the public doesn't understand how important it is, what it really does, or even where it is. So the liver is a master organ. It's responsible for 500 vital functions.
Yeah.
Actual functions are into the thousands when you look at enzymatic responses and all that.
Yeah, it's so true. I think, my career in medicine, 30 years, I did liver surgery, I did liver transplants. And the one thing I know about the liver is that it's often the last organ to fail because it's such a redundant capacity. And I think because of that, there's not a lot of attention paid to the liver by the pharmaceutical industry, for example. There's not a lot of liver-focused medications out there, for example. And also, it's the last thing we think about when we are doing an evaluation on somebody. And that's unfortunately the wrong way to think about it, because I think if you can focus on the liver early in your health journey, you can, like you said earlier, course correct. So what is the one thing most people get wrong when they think about the liver?
The two things I think we hear the most, and this is from people that are, really relatively fluent in medicine or education, is they think, oh, well, it's just my detox engine, or the other one is that it has to do with alcohol. Oh, well, I don't drink very much, so I don't need to check my liver. When as you just mentioned, to do with pharmaceuticals and medicines, that's actually causing more damage.
Right.
And that's most of the damage that comes from pharmaceuticals that hits the liver first, and then that causes all kinds of downstream effects. 70% of liver disease globally today is non-alcohol related.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
Because most people think that the only way to damage your liver is through alcohol. So if, like you said, if I'm not drinking, my liver's probably fine. But in reality, most liver damage, severe liver damage, is being caused by non-alcohol reasons, which are, what are some of those?
Processed foods,
Mhm.
ultra processed foods, preservatives of foods, basically chemicals or things that are synthetic or not native to the human body. When you enter 100,000 plus chemicals into the human basically diet in the last 100 years, we haven't hereditarily grown up to that, dealt with that, evolved for that, and the body doesn't know how to deal with it. That's driving a lot of it. Same thing with pharmaceuticals, chemicals to the body, the liver gets overloaded. And then what could tend to happen is the liver will look at what's a bigger threat. And the chemicals potentially in like a Diet Coke or more of a threat than sugar or fat would be. So the liver says, okay, I've got a bigger threat, danger coming in. Let me store the sugar and fat into glycans on the liver, which is why fatty liver starts exploding. And then let me deal with this other threat. We don't know what it is.
I see. So that's how some of these chemicals lead to fatty liver, is because the liver has a certain capacity for detoxifying, and it shifts its attention towards the chemicals in our food and our drinks. And like you said, that's so interesting because, I think there's a big story to be told here about how your liver fits into the puzzle of metabolic disease as well. And so I think that kind of speaks to some of it, but can you talk about how the liver fits into the metabolic disease equation, which, 85% plus people in America have some level of metabolic disease.
Yeah, and metabolic, because it all, when we talk about root cause, come back to the liver.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So as the liver gets overloaded with all the things that is being thrown at it, and you said it rightly, so most people don't understand or don't have symptoms for liver damage until it's too late. That's why it's called a silent killer. You start to get symptoms when you're far downstream, like in a blood test, for instance. You're not going to start getting bad liver enzymes on a blood test until you're further down the road.
Wow.
But as the liver gets overloaded and stressed, it can get inflamed. It can start to accumulate liver fat, which is 38% of the U.S. population now, expected to be 50%.
And your liver's not supposed to have fat in it. That's the issue.
It's supposed to have a little bit. What it does is the liver's, besides being in charge and the master of your immune system, in charge of your skin, your hair, all the vitamins, proteins, minerals, everything that we eat and digest, and it gets into the bloodstream via the small intestine, it goes to the liver, and the liver then stores that, organizes that, and is the mastermind of how those are released. It will form these little pockets on the liver that are like glycan pockets, and those are energy. So if you run, it's going to burn some of those. It's going to release some vitamins. So it starts to store these little packets. And if it gets overloaded or too many of those, it gets fatty. Then the liver function comes down. It starts to clog up. Its ability to expand and shrink goes down. And you start with cholesterol, for instance. Too much cholesterol, it comes to the liver to get processed and managed. And if not enough of it can be absorbed or dealt with the liver, it just keeps floating in the blood. And as it keeps floating in the blood, you start to build up cholesterol, which could affect arterial walls. That's going to affect, obviously, metabolic, but also, more importantly, to your question, is how sugar and insulin and all of that is dealt with. So your main engine that's dealing with that and dealing with insulin resistance and dealing with all of that is shutting down its functionality. And then you start to go down the slippery slope of metabolic syndrome, which is a primary cause of cardiovascular disease, not to mention type 2 diabetes and all the other things that happens with.
Yeah, it's so true. So you have metabolic disease affecting your liver health. You also have chemicals from mostly in our food, right? And I mean, we talk about the 150,000 different toxins that we're exposed to now that we were never exposed to prior to 80 years ago. A lot of that is in our food, and specifically the food that we're buying and feeding ourselves, ultra-processed food. I think it's a massive cause of the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is so funny because, we have this term called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, NAFLD, but really it's all still liver disease. And whether it's coming from alcohol or the food that we're eating, it causes the same problems in the liver, right?
Absolutely. And the nomenclature's changed recently to get away from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now they're calling it MASLD, so metabolic syndrome. So it's actually, they renamed it because of the effect it has, so that it covers both bases. And for a myriad of reasons, there was this within the hepatology community and the GI community for years, they're coming up with the new acronym. But it's metabolic syndrome really that it ties to now. And you've got, with toxins, it's not just what we eat. People forget that the largest organ in the body is the skin.
Mhm.
The largest internal organ is the liver. Everything you put on your skin, your skin,
Yeah.
it is precipitous, right? It breathes, it excretes, and it takes in. So we got toxins, we're cruising around LA that
Mhm.
we're breathing in, that's coming into the skin, we're touching it. Chemicals in the fabric softener that we use in our clothes, the laundry detergents, deodorants, topicals. Plus, we're just constantly exposed in many ways, not just what we're eating. We got to be very conscious of, what are you washing your hair with? The clothes that you're sweating into and coming back, the chemicals that were maybe made in that particular, maybe your workout outfit.
Yeah.
That's a big thing too.
Those workout
Endocrine
outfits that don't.
disruption, right? That's a big problem as well. That's why hormones getting messed with.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. People don't realize that those clothes that you wear to the gym that, don't allow you to really sweat and they don't get wet. That's because there's a ton of chemicals in it that gives it that property. And those are leaching into us through our skin.
Yeah, they're coming in as well.
Right. And so then those are then being filtered through our liver, right? And so we're just causing our liver to work extremely hard all the time.
And overloading it too. And we haven't got into microplastics and what that's happening too, but you are getting microfibers of synthetics being absorbed in, especially in porous areas. That's going to get into it's going to go through the skin, it's getting into the bloodstream, and it's going to end up in the liver.
Yeah. Now with microplastics, I know microplastics have been found in the brain. They've been found in blood vessels. Have they been found in the liver as well? I would assume so.
They're found in the liver. They've started to actually see it now in aortic valves in the heart.
Yeah.
Recently, they're starting to see it actually in newborn babies.
Yeah.
So it's going in vitro, right? Also, first time ever with fatty liver, you're actually in India, you're starting to see babies born with fatty liver disease.
Babies with fatty liver disease.
Which that's a phenomenon that had never been experienced before.
Sure.
That's how much these cheap calories, synthetic calories, and fructoses that are getting into the mother's diet is going through to the baby. And then with the children, basically getting cheap formulas and cheap calories, liver doesn't know how to deal with it, and babies are getting fatty liver.
No.
Yeah.
And that's almost, I think it's really worth highlighting that the main destructive force to the liver nowadays is not alcohol. It's not hepatitis like the viral infection.
No.
It is definitely our diet and the processed food and the chemicals in the diet and the high amount of, I would say, sugar in our diets as well, right? The inability of our metabolism to deal with all this sugar that is floating around in our bloodstream that is damaging our liver for the most part.
Yeah.
So this is a problem that everyone needs to be aware of.
Yeah.
Right?
Even newborn babies now, that's how bad it's come.
Yeah.
And it's, 38% I think is still relatively conservative. So globally, it's about 30, 35%. Those vary. Highest in the world is Iran.
Mm.
One of the highest is India. Both cultures have none or almost very, very little alcohol intake.
Right.
So liver disease is very prevalent there. The lowest is in Japan, which is interesting, but they're climbing. They're like 22% and accelerating as well. South America is exploding, and that's due to cheap calories, processed foods is a big culprit. For liver damage, an interesting example is in the UK, it's called paracetamol, or it's a acetaminophen,
right?
Tylenol here.
Right.
Really interesting study the British Liver Trust did that one dose of paracetamol does as much damage to your liver as 6 pints of lager.
One dose.
One dose. It dissolves liver tissue.
So one Tylenol dose is doing the same amount of damage as 6
pints of lager. Correct. Yeah.
More people know that statistic. They would definitely think twice before taking some Tylenol.
Yeah, exactly. We always, I always tell people if you do have a headache, first thing to do is drink some water because most people are chronically dehydrated.
Yes.
And a lot of the times that's your brain telling you, we're 60, 70% water, our brain's 80%, you need more water. And then that can usually subside it before we go down the route of what analgesic or what reactive to deal with it.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that because I think also Tylenol being one of them, pharmaceuticals in general, whether they're over-the-counter or prescription pharmaceuticals, it's a not known fact that most of them, almost all of them, are metabolized in our liver. Right?
Yeah.
And so taking a pill is a massive workload for our liver to process that chemical, to detoxify us from the negative effects of those chemicals.
Yeah. And then you compound that, or if you drink alcohol at the same time.
Sure.
So if you take a Tylenol and alcohol, it's not 2 + 2 is 4. It's 2 + 2 could be 8 because
Exactly.
you've compounded the amount of damage that's happened. That's why there's to be so particular, careful. And I think a lot of people think you don't drink because it lessens the effect of the drug. The bigger threat is actually the damage that it's going to do, because you can only deal with so many things at once.
Right. I think a lot of people also, after a night of drinking, they have a headache or a hangover, they'll take some Tylenol.
Yeah.
And in reality, like you said, they're dehydrated.
Yeah.
The Tylenol is now compounding the damage to the liver.
Yeah. And they need, like, they're vitamin B deficient, and there's other things to do it, but that kind of reactive to just throwing more drugs down your throat is not the best. I mean, modern medicine and pharmaceuticals in the right place and the right dosage are a miracle of humankind.
Absolutely, right.
Yeah.
If they're used for life-saving purposes.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You mentioned 38% of people have some level of liver disease, but I agree with you. I think that's an underestimation, because we're not proactively scanning people for liver damage in the general population. So most of these studies are done probably for people at risk already or in the hospital, and then we're finding it. And I think that the actual number is probably much higher, probably closer to where the number of people just with metabolic diseases. And I think also a lot of people that get scanned for liver disease, it's for these studies is after they have an elevation of their liver enzymes that we're measuring in their blood, right?
Correct.
And so those liver enzymes, for the audience, and everyone needs to know their numbers of these, their AST and their ALT, right? If these are even slightly elevated, there's some level of liver dysfunction occurring, which can then lead to liver damage, right?
Correct. Yeah, because with the standard blood panel that you get, on the liver panel, there'll be about 8 things we're looking for. AST, ALT, and gammas are the ones that are most kind of pinpointing if you've got liver damage or liver issue. But those are essentially warning signs and enzymes that are showing, hey, there's something bad going on. Let's dig deeper. But by the time that's happening, you're well down the road of liver damage.
Exactly.
So you've got to get in front of it. I love the analogy or metaphor, which is, when did Noah build the ark? And it's like before the flood. It's like, no, before the rain.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Got to get really, really back to do that, to prevent that. And checking your vitals, checking your statistics, all the things you can do, scanning. That's why we really got into scanning, because we were seeing 90% of our patients and our clients, both through clinical trials, studies, customers, consumer testing. They would come in with perfect bloods, and then we would scan them and be like, whoa, especially with elastography, which is more advanced than an ultrasound, but below an MRI. But it's very interesting because you can tell exactly what percentage of liver fat is there. And we're saying, okay, 80 to 90% of people with fatty liver disease not showing up on bloods. So what kind of old school method is a doctor will look at your liver panel, he'll look at your cholesterol, he'll look at your BMI, and he'll try to make a guess. You might have fatty liver. We have so many patients that come in, oh, I've been told I have fatty liver. I'm like, oh, how do you know? Well, my doctor thinks. Well, have you had a scan? No. Have you had an MRI? No. It's an educated guess, which if you're a man between 40 and 65 years old, you're about 60 to 70% chance of having it.
Absolutely.
So it's an educated guess or a bet.
Yeah, it's a bet. Yeah, it's like better than 50-50 odds if you have it.
Yeah.
Right. So, these, to define, we keep saying the word liver damage, but to define that, really, it's an elevation of liver enzymes, which is a lagging indicator of it. It's going to happen more later in the disease process. What are other signs, symptoms that people can use to potentially discover whether they're damaging the liver? Can people feel this? Are there other things that they can look at?
Absolutely. One of the first symptoms that you have, and is one that's probably overlooked, is brain fog. So there's a direct correlation. Fatty liver leads to impaired cognitive function. Therefore, when I mean brain fog, your memory recall is not as quick, you're not thinking as fast, we've all felt a little fuzzy, and that's basically brain fog. And so many people have that, but they can, that could be because of lack of sleep, or it could be because I need to eat more this, or I'm stressed, or whatever. So they're not pinpointing the reason. So brain fog is something to look at first and foremost. Secondary is weight gain. You will gain weight quicker, and then you will shed weight slower. And that's because the liver is also in charge of helping to metabolize fat. So as your liver gets fattier, its ability and your body's ability to break fats down diminishes. So if you really want to lose weight and you're trying to keep your into good posture, good, I guess, physical appearance, you really, really need to look at your liver and what's happening there as well. Skin, breakouts of the skin can be a sign of detoxification internally, a yellowing of the skin, energy levels. Oh, bad sleep. One of the first symptoms of fatty liver, it affects your sleep. So your sleep will diminish as well. I believe that one of the reasons, whilst we sleep, the two main metabolic and physical things that happen is, one is your brain starts storing all the memories for the day. So it's like you turn a computer off and the hard drive's caching.
Yeah.
That's what your brain does. And the other thing is your liver does all of its regeneration, generally between 1 to 3 a.m. And the liver will actually grow by up to 40% while it reconstructs billions and billions and billions of cells. And then it comes back down and it comes back to shape and then the next day. Because that's such a big energy drain, it does it whilst you sleep. Because in the day, you have so many other demands on the fuel in the body.
Yes.
So if that's struggling a lot, your sleep pattern will be disrupted. Therefore, you won't have as good a sleep.
Interesting.
But those are probably the big first symptoms, yeah.
Very interesting. And, one of the things that most people don't know is liver is one of those organs that can regenerate itself, which I think is extremely important. You just have to give it the chance to do so, right? And so sleep is also important for your liver health because, like you said, it's happening at night. So if you're not sleeping, you're not giving your liver a chance to regenerate.
It's the only organ in the human body that fully regenerates.
Yeah.
You can have up to 90% of your liver damaged and it will grow back. If, let's say, God forbid, if you needed a liver transplant, we had a genetic match, we would take what's called a live liver transplant. We'll take a third of my liver off, put that into you, and within a month, that'll grow back to a fully double-lobed organ, and mine will grow back. No organ in the human body fully regenerates.
Right.
And to do, sleep, probably the most important thing for health is sleep. We work a lot with cancer patients and chemo patients and people that are really trying to get, through something horrific and onto a better path. And I always say the most damaging thing to your health is lack of sleep.
Yeah. So one of the things I would notice in liver transplant is that people's livers, like you said, will regenerate. By the way, that's one of the most complicated surgeries you can do is take a piece of someone's liver because there's, you have your portal veins, you have your arteries, and you also have your regular venous system. So you have so many different vessels coming off of it. Anyhow, it was beautiful surgery. And people's livers, like you said, will regenerate. The transplanted one would grow. But it always blew me away how much damage people do to themselves with alcohol and with diet. And it's usually a combination of both. The alcoholics would eat garbage, and then they all had metabolic disease as well. And the combination of those two would lead to what we call end-stage liver disease, where it's the end.
Yeah.
They've damaged 100% of the liver. They're about to die. And that's when you would do a liver transplant. And there were other reasons for doing liver transplants, removing a tumor, hepatitis from an infection, and a lot of damage from that. But mostly it was alcohol and metabolic disease. And in the tide turn from alcohol to metabolic disease being the main reason, somewhere in the 1980s. And I think that happened because of the massive overabundance of ultra-processed food in our diet.
Yeah. It is incident timing that it was the late 70s, early 80s that high fructose corn syrup came out. Because the Japanese technology, they said, we have all this excess corn, what can we do with it? And then the Japanese technology, well, we can extract basically a mimic sugar out of it. And then all the big soda companies said, wow, well, let's pull sugar out of Coke, let's pull sugar out of Pepsi, let's put corn syrup in. Body does not know how to deal with that. I mean, the timing is pretty coincidental.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I didn't even realize that, but you're absolutely right. Is when high fructose corn syrup entered into our diet.
Is it everything? Bread, French fries, sodas, drinks, especially for children. Yeah, all the cereals. Yeah, body just does not know how to deal with it.
Yeah, and the reason we use high fructose corn syrup is because it is infinitely cheaper than sugar, right?
And not only is it's cheaper, but it's also heavily subsidized by the government. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it can be produced anywhere, whereas sugar needs to be extracted in certain parts of the world and shipped everywhere, whereas corn is just everywhere.
Like if you want to get what a real Coca-Cola used to taste like, you have to go to get a Mexican Coke because it's actually a sugar.
Sure. Right, real
and
sugar.
And here, because the U.S. produces so much corn that the government pays corn farmers not to farm. so the price doesn't drop anymore. That's how much corn syrup. It's just
Yeah.
And another way to squeeze some more money out of it was to create corn syrup.
Yeah. So why do they not use high fructose corn syrup in Mexico?
I believe because they produce a lot of sugar there as well. So it's a sugar growing country. And they don't have the government subsidies. So it's a totally different, because the technology to extract it isn't cheap, but it's not as heavily subsidized by the government. Whereas South America, Mexico, those are sugar producing countries. The U.S. doesn't produce a ton of sugar, but it produces a huge amount of corn.
How is fructose different than glucose?
So fructose is what's man-made, and it's a chemical version of it, whereas glucose is sugar. But they call it, in the UK, they don't call it fructose syrup, they call it glucose syrup, but it's basically high fructose.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And from my understanding of the science of fructose is it causes more damage to the liver than sugar does.
Correct.
In fact, because it's absorbed directly through the portal vein into the liver.
Yeah, and the only thing that does worse than that is like the chemicals in a diet soda. I was actually just talking to Dr. Spector yesterday about this, and the liver damage from a diet soda versus a regular soda.
Why is that?
And how once again, it's all these chemicals that the body doesn't know how to deal with, and aspartame, plus all the preservatives in there, and then all of the functional chemicals that are used in the manufacturing. All those things are leading to it. Whereas sugar is bad, but the farther you get away from nature with anything, the more problems you have with the body.
Absolutely.
Like let's take aspirin, for example, right? The white willow bark that in its natural form is a very good analgesic and has been used for thousands of years and probably has 80% efficacy rate to get rid of a headache. Bayer was able to synthesize it in I think it was the 30s or 40s, made into synthetic aspirin, but the actual efficacy rate of that now is about 55%. So it's cut by a third how many people it works for. Farther you get away from nature, the more chemicals you have, the less chance and the more problems you have.
Right, for sure. And I think this speaks to a very controversial topic, seed oils, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people argue benefit versus risk of seed oil. A lot of studies showing that it can actually, help some people lower cholesterol levels, lower inflammation. But my thought is that seed oils are highly processed. There's a lot of other chemicals that our liver is dealing with. And why use seed oils if we have like olive oil or avocado oil, which is much closer to nature? What are your thoughts around seed oils?
Well, seed oils in their nature of just how they're manufactured and made, or once again, so processed, you've killed a lot of the goodness in them.
Yes.
The polyphenols, the antioxidant, all that's been crushed or squeezed or boiled or processed out of it as well. They're inexpensive. They're cheap to be made, and they have a higher smoke point, and they can be used over and over and over at a restaurant. So I have like a biohack that my wife taught me and that we do now whenever we go out is when the waiter always asks you, have any food allergies? First thing we say is seed oils. Please cook my food in butter or olive oil.
That's a great hack.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And they'll have to do it because they're always so petrified of, in case you do. And it does cause all kinds of problems. I mean, and molecularly they're different. Extra virgin olive oil, good fat. Regular olive oil, not as good. Extra virgin coconut oil, very good. 4 or 5 times pressed coconut oil, not as good. Grass-fed butter, totally different molecularly than dairy butter. Really good. So once you start to squeeze all those things out of it and destroy a lot of its natural properties, it's bad. Yeah. And you lose all the benefit. I mean, olive oil is so good for you. Extra virgin, incredible.
Absolutely.
Topically, to eat it, you put it in your hair. It's all kinds of health benefits as well.
Yeah, no, it's so true. What are some of the other foods that people need to be concerned about as far as their liver health goes? We've talked about high fructose corn syrup. We've talked about seed oils, ultra-processed foods, just as a big general category, and the chemicals in ultra-processed food. What are some other ones?
Preservatives are always, obviously, you've got to look at those as well. Because if you think about a preservative, it's a lot of the times in packaged foods, it's a processed chemical made to take organic matter and keep it past its natural lifespan.
Right.
So what's that going to do inside of your body when it's sitting there?
Yeah.
It could be similar effect as well. One of the things they hide stuff with is natural flavorings. That's used a lot and abused as a term. You'll see I always tell people that whenever you eat anything, just flip it around, look at the back. But when you see natural flavorings, a lot of times that could be a myriad of different things as well. So then you kind of have to use a little intuition. What's the integrity of this brand?
Right.
What's the integrity of this company as well? Um, Unfortunately, as much as I love it, fish, there's a lot of microplastics in fish, not to mention you get the heavy metal issue as well. I was getting a full in-depth blood panel done, and I came back with my mercury levels were off the charts. And I'd been in Solana Beach, and I'd been eating swordfish a lot. And it came right through there as well. But the microplastics, that's a big, big problem. And a lot of that is in the fish. You're not going to get that as much as beef or in pork or chicken, but specifically in fish because of all the plastic in the ocean.
Right. I think people, fish are in the ocean. And like you said, you're having swordfish. These fish live in the ocean for a long time. They get really big. Microplastics are going through their system. All the contaminants from, just humans throwing heavy metals and other chemicals in the ocean. These are all accumulating in the fish. So when you eat fish, even ocean fish, unfortunately, is it's a problem because of our polluted oceans.
Yeah, because even the teeny weeny little fish, they get it. It's inside of them. Then the fish bigger than that eats it, and the fish, and it goes up. And then by the time you get to an apex fish, like a swordfish or a tuna, it has consumed all those other basically downstream and species of fish that are all absorbing. Because it might have eaten 50,000 little fish to get to the size before it gets on your plate.
Right.
And it's picked up all those microplastics.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to get your head wrapped around the effects of what we're doing to our oceans until you put it in that way that, all the things that our fish eat, we're eating, and then now they're accumulating in us as well.
Yeah. Grass-fed beef, much healthier.
Absolutely.
Where you get chicken, like a lot of chicken is just stuffed with antibiotics. And that can affect the eggs. You're taking that in. Tap water, the water that we're drinking. Just because most of the water, even here in California, it'll say on the warnings, like, don't put it in a fish tank, right? There's so much chlorine and chemicals in there. Plus, especially in London, what you see, and I'm sure that's the same here. Anywhere you've got a lot of recycled water, you've got a lot of hormones in there, especially birth control.
Right.
So birth control gets, obviously it goes to the toilets, it gets to the water system, it gets filtered and processed, but it's still in the drinking water. That's why we're getting all these weird hormone issues and endocrine disruptors and everything. And that's because of the hormone that's coming back in. So you want to drink spring water if you can. The best is spring water out of glass. If not, you got to do the plastic, and then you get the microplastic risk. And if you've got a filtration to your house, you get most of it, but then you've got fluoride. So, we're getting it from all ends. You don't want to run around being paranoid, but you could make little choices along the way.
Absolutely.
To do that. But those are things that are very bad on the liver.
Yeah, all of it. My advice on water is to get a reverse osmosis system for where you get most of your water from.
Yeah.
And if you can't do a reverse osmosis, they're like $500-$600 and get some sort of filtration system. You see a lot of kitchen sinks have one main faucet and a secondary faucet. A secondary faucet needs to have some sort of filter, preferably reverse osmosis.
Yeah, before it. We do, because my wife we had our second little baby at home during COVID. So we had a home birth. And as our first son was born in the bath, we said, okay, we want to have a bath birth. And we're like, okay, well, I can't have my baby born into tap water in a bathtub because you're absorbing through on your skin. So we did a whole house system. I know it's expensive, but it's a phenomenal investment for your family. That way, if you're cooking vegetables or washing vegetables or boiling pasta or showering or bathing or washing on your plants, right? It's good to get a whole house. They're a couple grand, but it is an investment in your health and your family's health. And we do that, and then we have a reverse osmosis. And then we take it a step further. We have a Kangen, which is this Japanese technology which alkalizes it and does all that. But it's, water is probably a big place that people don't think about. And that's where you're getting a lot of toxins in too. Driving around the city with your window open.
Sure.
You're breathing in toxins all the time there,
Yeah. Having a good air filtration where you spend the most time, maybe your office and your bedroom at night where you sleep. I'm a big advocate of putting a good air filter there if you're in an environment where the outside air is not great. And then just changing your air filters in your home HVAC system is also very important.
Yeah.
I try to break it down for people because it can get overwhelming, right? So it's air, water, food, and skin. Those are the four big places that you need to really mitigate your toxic exposure. And the Pareto principle, which is, take the few small actions that have the biggest effect.
Yeah.
Air filters, water filters, changing out all your cosmetics, like you mentioned. Like, a lot of us put chemicals on our skin every single day. I think women use an average of 14 different products and men use an average of 9 on their skin. You can scan those products with apps that'll tell you what level of toxins you're putting in your body, and then replace them, because you only need to replace them one time.
Yeah.
Once they're replaced, you go years and years going in the right direction, right? So I think that those are all very important pieces of advice for people.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people's reaction, how it's expensive. It is more expensive than, maybe the normal product, but how expensive is getting sick? How expensive is getting cancer? How expensive
is liver disease?
Yeah. Or
Right.
missing work, or just, we spend so much time and money and energy and focus on feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Think how much it doesn't cost that much to not feel bad.
That's a great point. I love it. I love that point. So, okay, you have all this advice for us on how not to damage our liver, obviously. Yeah. Oh, we need to talk about alcohol. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about alcohol. What are your thoughts around alcohol?
So, alcohol, in essence, while there are positives to it, it's not just all bad. It can de-stress. It can let people let their hair down and relax, and it's very cultural important. It brings people together, get rid of social anxiety. I come from a wine growing family in Switzerland, which coincidentally, when you used to do liver transplants, one of the tests that they give you after a liver transplant is called a Clavien Dido test.
Oh, that's you.
That's my cousin.
Ah.
So my first cousin, Pierre-Alain Clavien.
Yeah.
So the Claviens in Switzerland are known for two things, winemaking and liver health.
Ah, interesting.
So it's a small world. But his family and my family, our fathers are first cousins. Mm-hmm. Very much, wine's important. And I think wine in small doses, because it can lower stress, it can be there's vascular positives to it. I've seen studies on both sides. I think has some positives as well. But once you get into excess, it's like anything, right? Sun's really good for you. Too much sun is bad for you.
The dose is the poison.
Exactly. Too much of it. Spirits, obviously. So, vodkas and things like that. I tell clients, if you're going to drink, wine would probably be the best in moderation. If you're going to drink alcohol and you really want to have spirits, the probably cleanest is something that's distilled 4, 5, 6 times, because every time it's distilled, impurities are removed.
Right.
And the probably healthiest cocktail to have would be like a 5 times distilled vodka with soda water and lemon. The worst is when you take a cheap alcohol and you mix it with chemicals like a Red Bull or a Diet Coke or a soda. Gosh. Then you're compounding it. Then you're hitting somebody with sugar and chemicals and toxins and alcohol, right? So
disaster.
That's a disaster. So if you're going to
Red
do
Bull
it,
and cheap vodka, right?
Yeah, I mean some of the children we see, teenagers with the worst liver disease, which is usually worse than the parents. Mm-hmm. It comes down to processed foods, fast food, and Red Bull, diet soda with alcohol,
energy drinks.
Yeah,
right?
So bad for you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. These are all daily choices that we make, and so. It's not all bad in one moment, but doing this over and over every day, I think it's important to once again highlight the fact that it's not just alcohol. It's also the energy drinks that have a ton of high fructose corn syrup in them and sugar. Also the dietary choices we make, the toxins we're putting on our skin, all of this builds up. And thank goodness our liver is an extremely resilient organ. It can keep us alive a long time being exposed to all this, but when it fails, it fails. And like you said, as it's failing, you're experiencing brain fog, skin conditions. You're just not feeling great. You don't know why. And it's because your liver is not healthy. It's actually screaming for help. You're just not listening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Another tip I always say if somebody does have a drink is drink a glass of water with every drink. Mm-hmm. Because you're diluting it, you're getting hydrated, and it's going to really help as well. Plus, you'll drink less because you're filling up. So it's a little hack you can do. Maybe just have one drink, with the colleagues after work or on a night out as well. But we say love your liver. That's why our URL is loveyourliver.com. Wow. Because we're trying to, let's face it, the liver's not really a sexy organ. So we're trying to make it more appealing to people and understand it. And that's why we say love it, and it will love you back. It protects you. It takes care of you, and it's responsible for so many things. And it's so complex. It's one of the few organs that we cannot replace with technology.
No.
You can dialysis machine for kidneys, artificial hearts, lungs, all those, but the liver's constantly regenerating. We can't replace it with technology or even come close to replicating it. I found this fascinating. I just learned this recently. The average age of your liver whether you're 95 years old or 5 years old, is 3 years. The average cell age of a liver is 3 years.
Really?
Very rare that any of your liver cells be more than 10. It regenerates so much, you're basically cruising around with a 3-year-old liver,
3-year-old liver, right?
no matter how old you are.
So interesting.
When we get older, it does shrink in size, but it's still about the same age because it's just this, constant regenerating, just, miracle of nature.
That's 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a miracle that our liver can regenerate itself every 3 years completely. I mean, it's mind blowing. Okay, so we've learned how to protect our liver, and now, say you just want to know where you're at with your liver right now.
Yeah.
You have some blood tests we talk about, AST, ALT, GGT, but those are like, the last thing to change, right?
Yeah.
So how can one look at their liver and understand what is the current status of how my liver health is doing?
First is always anecdotal, which any of us can do that for free. How are we feeling? Start paying attention to that. I'm a huge proponent, and one of the reasons we started the liver clinics and getting as much scanning out there as possible is to do what's called an elastography or a shear wave scan. And, we used to have ultrasound, and ultrasound will tell you, okay, is there a tumor or is it fatty or not fatty? And it just says yes or no. Shear wave is a lot more advanced. It takes about 10 minutes. You lay down, pull your shirt up to about here, put the probe in, and we shoot a sound wave through your liver. And the softer your liver is, the squishier it is, the healthier it is. So we're measuring how soft and squishy it is. And in that, we can pick up, is there any fibrosis, which is scarring? Is it starting to get stiff? Is it inflamed? So we can pick up stiffness. And the other thing is fat. We can pick up exactly what percentage of liver fat you have, how much of the liver is showing fatty change. So if you combine that, then you could go a step further and even throw an ultrasound aspect in that one exam, and you can see if there's any tumors, are there any cysts, what's happening. You take that, and then you look at your liver test on a blood panel, plus your cholesterol, plus A1C, which is sugar, right? Because that's all affected by the liver. That's going to give you a much, much better picture as well.
Yeah.
Scanning is probably is the most important of that, but then you need to marry that with those other things. And a lot of people, the old school mentality of cholesterol is, oh, well, if you have high cholesterol, you're going to get cardiovascular disease, right? So 70% of cholesterol is genetic. So only 30% of our cholesterol is based off environmental factors. So we want to know what's happening, but what's happening within the liver. But most importantly is, and I know you're a big proponent of this, and I am as well, is a cardiac CT scan.
Sure.
And doing it clearly through it as well.
Right.
And then you're going to pick up what's happening, because if you might just have native cholesterol cruising around, but what you want to worry about is called the little lipids, the little cholesterol that gets into the arterial walls and starts to fill up plaque and calcium buildup, and that's why a calcium coronary score is important.
Right.
So taking care of your liver is very much important in the defense of cardiovascular disease and how we deal with cholesterol. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's an important point to highlight, is your liver is your organ that's really dealing with the cholesterol that's floating around in your bloodstream. So a lot of the medications that we use to fight high cholesterol, if you're at risk for cardiac disease, have an effect primarily in your liver.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so this scan, the shear wave, it's using sound waves, so it doesn't hurt. It's not like we're putting anything inside your body. It's just done on the skin. And it gives you different scores of how much fat you have and how much fibrosis you have. And just for the audience, fibrosis occurs after more damage to your liver. So it starts off with fatty liver disease, and then it becomes fibrotic, which means actually replacing good liver tissue with hard, non-functional liver tissue, right?
Correct. But you can have scarring and fibrosis, but have normal liver fat.
Right.
And we've had that, and that tends to be pharmaceutical induced.
Interesting.
Like we had a client that came in, everything was perfect, golf, fit, low body fat, looked really good on paper.
Makes sense, right.
But then we scanned him, liver fat was low, but his fibrosis was called an F4, which is serious scarring.
Yep.
And we're like, oh dear. So we then go to MRI for confirmation. Then you have to go to biopsy, which we try to avoid at all costs. And what we figured out is that he had been on a antacid drug for 25 years at a double dose. And that had been slowly scarring and creating more scarring, and has really messed up his liver. We're able to I think, course correct him before he went into liver failure. But it's sometimes it's not always with liver fat, but generally you are correct. As the liver gets fattier, you get more collagen buildup. Those collagen starts to go in and create these, looks like little veins or channels, and then those can harden, turn into scars. Then you've got that. And then with the next step, that's kind of like NASH.
Yeah.
And then after that, those veins will connect, and then they'll trap all this healthy liver tissue. That liver tissue will then die because it's starved of oxygen and blood and energy. And then you get that's cirrhosis.
That's cirrhosis,
and that's
right?
what it looks like leopard spots. And that's because those spots are dead tissue because that scarring started to connect. So you want to try to catch that scarring early and prevent it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. No, that scarring, it can be due to fat, or like you said, it can be due to pharmaceuticals. But basically, scarring is your body's attempt at repairing areas that have been damaged, right? And so just like you get a scar in your skin, you get scarring in your liver. And what's really incredible about the liver is that even though it's damaged, even though it's scarred, there's a potential to reverse this damage because of the incredible regenerative capacity of the liver.
Yeah.
And I think that's really mind-blowing to me, that you just give it a break and you just change your habits, you could potentially reverse this process.
Yeah. And that's why we keep saying that over and over, love your liver, love your liver. I mean, you should love yourself, right? Love your liver. And you start to put that positive energy into yourself, and you start paying attention, and you can start to reverse that, make more conscious decisions, and prevent that and undo damage. There's a lot of negatives that we discussed to do with, type 2 diabetes and with liver disease. But the great thing about fatty liver disease and type 2 diabetes is they're reversible with lifestyle change.
Yeah.
So that's the silver lining. You can totally turn that around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would even say that cardiac disease is reversible as well with lifestyle changes. We see massive studies that we can reverse cardiac disease. So basically, all the diseases that humans are dying of, we just have to do lifestyle changes to reverse them.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, I listened to one of your talks recently, and listening to your story and your testimony of your path. You were headed right into the side of the mountain.
Right.
And you would have had cardiovascular disease, but you course corrected and totally took yourself out of that. And now you're the opposite. Besides being incredibly healthy, you're teaching other people how not to go down that path.
Yeah.
Here's what we can do. That's why I really like the Next Health model and functional medicine and integrative medicine is bringing what's in best to create wellness.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. At a root cause. And, I think when you create wellness at a root cause, not only do you avoid chronic disease and you turn around chronic disease, but you also feel great.
Yeah.
Which is the best side effect ever, right? Is feeling incredible. Okay, let's go back to that scan. So you have the scan that can detect fat and fibrosis, and there's different levels. And can you describe those levels and what they mean?
So there's a general scaling method that's used, whether we're in London at UCL or you're in Tokyo or California. And you go F0, which is normal fibrosis, which is 0. You don't have any. And then it goes F1, which is, they use a color code system. So it goes from green to yellow, to orange, to red, to almost purple, as far as the severity of it. And we do that for liver fat as well. Stage 1 steatosis is what a lot of people have. That's technically not fatty liver disease. That's just a fatty liver. When you go to what's called stage 2 and stage 3, that's fatty liver disease, and that leads to all kinds of problems. The more people, and I'm a very strong proponent of this, and I even convinced the head of cardiology at one of the most prominent universities in the UK, more people will die of cardiovascular disease because of fatty liver than will die of liver disease because of fatty liver. The fatty liver is driving cardiovascular disease because of metabolic disease, metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes as well. But that's the grading system. Sorry, I digressed a little bit, but those are the grading systems that we can look at, and it's the color coding. Same thing for the fat as well. Think of the stoplight.
Yeah,
green
exactly.
through red. Yeah.
Green through red, right. And so I got my liver scan done with you, and I've been in medicine for 30 years in this field, and I've never had a liver scan done. I've had a full body MRI, which does look at the liver, but it's different, doesn't grade your levels of fibrosis or fat. And what I believe is, just like the coronary calcium score, this liver scan is one of the most underutilized tests in preventative medicine. And so, everyone should really have one. There's really very few people that should not have a liver scan, because you never know, right? You never know how much, like you said, there's people that are super healthy that are taking an antacid, for God's sake, and they have they're about ready to lose their liver. And so why not screen for this, right? And then the other great thing about it is there's no radiation in this scan. You could do it every day and it's not going to change or harm you in any way. And it's a great tool to follow your liver health over time, right? And so if you have an abnormality, you want to aim to go from like an F1 to an F0, right? Yep. That's the aim. And you can aim for that goal with lifestyle changes.
Absolutely. And we believe in evidence and data,
right?
Both in our phytomedicines and in our screening as well. So we track progress or decline. Generally, what we're using it for is to make people aware, baseline them, but it should be once a year event. You go get a physical once a year. You should have your liver screen once a year. It's so safe that it's approved throughout Europe and the US. If you're pregnant, if you have a pacemaker, it's essentially sound and ultrasound and mathematics with some AI in the background, and we can tell exactly what's happening.
Right.
Without having to, zero radiation.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Absolute game changer. It's, I always tell people, get your blood test and look at your biomarkers. But your biomarkers are sometimes a little late in helping you understand where you truly are at this moment, right? And so I think using scanning technology gives you a much clearer picture of what's actually going on in the anatomy, which is critical information for people to know. So I agree. We're going to be doing it in X-Health now for all of our patients that are on a membership program on a yearly basis. I think it's a great idea, and I think people want to do it more if they have some level of liver damage because who wants to live with that, right? And you definitely don't want to continue the same course, right? I mean, you have to turn this around for sure.
Absolutely. We advise once a year, but if you do have a condition and we want to track the progress or the reversal of it, then you'll do another one at 6 months, or maybe you had a car accident or a major surgery, right? Anesthesia causes a lot of liver damage. You want to check and see where you're at because we might need to put the customer onto maybe a different diet or potentially onto, take the patient and then put them onto Deliverance or other modalities to repair that damage quickly and see where it's at. Because you might not think you have liver damage and you do, and that could be a byproduct of general anesthetics after could be anything from plastic surgery to a hip replacement to what have you. See where you're at, and then you can adjust.
For sure. Yeah, it's a really good point. Having anesthesia for surgery is damaging to your liver because your liver is detoxifying you from a lot of that anesthesia. Yeah. So as far as diet goes, so we know sleep is important for your liver because that's when your liver heals. We know that diet is important. So we've already talked about all the foods that you should avoid.
Yeah.
Are there specific foods that promote liver health?
So always, like most things, leafy greens, things that are high in chlorophyll, high in vitamins as well. Those are very good. Water's obviously keeping yourself really well hydrated. Coffee's really good for your liver. You have a 44% less chance of developing liver disease if you drink 2 to 3 cups a day of coffee.
I love that news.
Yeah. So coffee is very good for your liver. The other stat I read, I think it's 66% if you drink 4 cups a day. So obviously Italian's probably very good for liver disease perspective, but coffee's really good because before you do a scan, mind you, the only thing you have to do is fast for 3 hours, water only, and no coffee. The reason no coffee is because it brings all this blood into the liver, and it could throw off the stiffness level. But that's also one of the reasons coffee's so good because it's bringing so much blood into the liver. It's staying really healthy as well. So coffee, water, leafy greens, sweet potatoes. There's a whole list on our website of kind of what we recommend to do as well. Seed oil is bad, which we discuss. Those are probably the ones that, basically a really healthy, well-balanced diet with vitamins and nutrients as well.
What do you think about certain diets causing harm to the liver? With the keto diet or the carnivore diet, there's a lot of talk around people using these diets. And I actually use them myself with certain patients for interventions. And when they are having massive food allergies, for example, we need to do a complete elimination. But what are your thoughts on mainly meat-only, zero-fiber diets? And
there's a lot of positives to carnivore diet, but one of the negatives is the lack of fiber. That's why you've got to do supplementation with certain supplements if you are doing that as well. I think personally a keto diet is much healthier because you can balance it out with a lot of veg and supplement. I mean, it's even dogs, you'll see dogs eating grass, and that's because they're trying to pick up some minerals that they're not getting in their food. So it's a natural thing to take in vegetables and minerals via plants and in with your meat as well. So what we do see, which is interesting, is people that are fasting or on really heavy carnivore diets, we're seeing big spikes up of liver fat. I think that has to do with the starvation mode. Your body's starving for that period, so it starts to store some extra fats. Once again, if they are doing a lot of meat, how is the meat cooked? What types of oil is it cooked in as well? That's really important. We do see really high levels of fatty liver disease on certain vegan diets. And a lot of that's to do with when they're eating super processed vegetarian or vegan food.
Yeah. Dirty vegan diet.
Yeah, the amount of oils it takes to make like a Beyond Burger or those fake meats is off the charts.
Exactly.
That's got all kinds of hidden bugaboos in it that aren't good. Natural vegetarian with lots of fresh veg and fruit, incredibly good for you. But once you start to get into this kind of man-made, manipulated vegan stuff, you run into problems. I think it is important, incredibly important, if you do eat a lot of plants and vegetables, is are you washing those properly before you cook them? Because the amount of pesticides that are sitting on top of those veg and those fruits is astronomical sometimes. If you we always let it soak. We have like a little alkalizer you put in the sink with the water, and it'll pull that off. Or you could do an alkaline or acidic water bath, and you'll see a lot of these oils come up because this field of broccoli is organic, it doesn't mean that the field next to it isn't. And those pesticides are going to blow over and get onto the food. So, and once you start to consume more in mass of vegetables, you get more chance to get those chemicals as well and pesticides. Yeah. You're driving here from Arizona, and you drive through kind of the El Centro area, and we were watching which was cool to watch, but you're watching the pesticide planes, the crop dusters.
Yep.
And I was just thinking, I'm like, oh my God, just all those man-made chemicals and Monsanto and Roundup just being sprayed on all that food. And most people don't know. They take it home and they give it a quick rinse and then they're eating it. That's a big problem.
I'm glad you highlighted this. So the proper way to wash vegetables and fruits is, like you said, an alkaline bath. So that's like taking baking soda basically and putting it in water, right? Yeah. Okay, so water, baking soda. Some people put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in there, which also creates, and I agree with you. I mean, that's key is, even if you're buying organic, is wash your own produce, right?
Absolutely. And that's one of those hidden way that it's getting into the food system is we're not really thinking about that. We just give it a quick rinse and then do that. Just soak it for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
So those salad spinners are good because you put it in there. We put also some salt, gets rid of the bugs, and then it'll rise to the top, give it another rinse, and then carry on.
Yeah. Great advice. So we're modified our diet. We've drinking a lot of water, right? Preferably filtered and in glass bottles, of course. We've changed our habits around our toxin exposure. What else can we do to ensure that our liver is healthy as possible?
Is paramount.
Let's talk about that. Why?
So one of the healthiest things that we can do is walking. So just getting a good walk in, getting some fresh air, getting the blood moving, cardiovascular health, getting everything kind of pumping and moving. Sedentary lifestyles are a huge cause of fatty liver disease because when you're sitting and you're stagnant, your energy's not moving, right? Your chi, your prana, your blood flow, everything's just kind of like stagnant. So getting around and moving has a lot to do with it, especially with like yoga, getting the lymphatic system going, dry brushing is incredibly good. My wife just got one of those little trampolines.
Yeah.
That's really good for the lymphatic system.
Absolutely.
Really good. And you look a little silly, so it's fun to do it as well. But I think exercise is paramount. Fresh air, sunshine, digital detox as well. Stress and dopamine, basically addiction and dopamine overdose by being on your phone too much or gamifying too much and stress, that causes a lot of liver damage too, because you're overloading your system.
Right, with stress hormones.
I like some of the wearables you can do. Some people like Apple Watches. Some people, I like Oura Ring. They're all good as long as you don't become obsessive with them. But what they do is they allow you to start tracking your sleep, tracking your oxygen level, your stress, and you could also start to say, "Ooh, maybe I need a little more rest. I need to calm down a little bit." These are all part of it. This is all for healthy lifestyle, regardless. Right? These are all things we should all do.
Right, absolutely. So, there's a lot of talk around detoxification and, juice cleanses and different cleanses. and detox supplements. And I just want to get kind of your feedback or your thoughts on cleanses and detoxification as far as taking products for certain things like that. What are your thoughts around that?
So I've been in phytomedicine development for 28 years now,
right?
And a lot of it's always been around detoxification and body cleansing, liver health. I used to think, which was erroneous, I realize now, which was trying to actively get the body to go into detoxification. And I think, and I've realized that sometimes that can actually be, there's a risk factor to that as well. Putting your body or trying to push or trick your body into detoxification, if it's not ready, can be damaging. And another way that can be really damaging is if you mix the wrong type of fasting with that, because if your body goes into detoxification, it's very caloric intensive. So it needs lots of fuel to do that. What happens is some people will go into this heavy detox diet or this heavy detox program, and they're not getting the right nutrients or food or calories. And it's like running an engine really fast with no oil. You can actually cause liver damage by doing that as well. We don't, in Deliverance and the current products that we make and the future of our products, we use more of a passive approach. We give the body what it needs to do its thing. And so we optimize the liver's function. And if the body feels that it's going to detoxification, it will take you into detoxification and do that. I am not a proponent, even though I used to be, but now that I know more and know more understand science and we've evolved in medicine, I think pushing somebody detoxification has its risks. I think it's better to give the body what it's need and let the body do its thing.
Yeah. It's so funny because after Christmas and New Year's, a lot of my patients ask me, like, I'm going to go on a detox cleanse juice program that I'm going to buy, and I'm not going to eat anything except this 8-week program. And exactly what you said, it's actually very unhealthy for them, and they can cause more problems. So I agree with you. I think, detoxing is better done with avoiding the toxins in the first place and then letting the body do its thing. But there are certain compounds that can help the process, right? Like you were saying. And so I started taking Deliverance, your product, about 6 months ago, and I love it. Even though my liver scores are normal on my liver scan, I still take it because I feel that day to day, we live in the most toxic environment humans have ever been exposed to. I travel a lot like you do. I'm, just like many people, when you travel a lot and you have a career and you have kids, you are stressed. And so I'm exposed to by stress hormones a lot as well. So I use it for maintenance, and I'd love to hear from you, because I've done the research as well, but I'd love to hear from you. How does this product work? What's in it? What are the benefits to Deliverance?
Absolutely. And a lot of nature gives us pretty much all the medicines we need.
Right.
And as a very basic, I always say, if you don't have anything, milk thistle's good, or dandelion's good, artichoke's really good as well. We used to use those in other products. The formulation for Deliverance took 18 years to develop. And it was based off of, and I just learned about this about 15 years ago, Eastern medicine, traditional Korean and Chinese medicine. And what I love about it is you've got 4,000 or 5,000 years of kapia and knowledge about the liver health. And we looked at the body holistically. So we came across a formulation that was developed over thousands of years for hepatitis and making the liver function and repairing it and doing that as well. And we took all that knowledge and then ancient wisdom, and we combined that with modern technology. What's happening molecularly? What's happening from bioavailability? How's it being absorbed? How's it going into the bloodstream? How's it being expelled? What happens when these two compounds mix? What happens if you do it in powder versus in liquid? And we did that to develop this product. And with Deliverance, it has 3 pillars that it stands on. One is the mental clarity, which I love. And that is when you take Deliverance, you'll start to feel the mental clarity in minutes, and that'll last about 6 to 8 hours. And that's because we're increasing neurotransmission in the brain. So it's kind of like going from watching regular TV to like 4K in your brain. Everything's clearer and crisper, and it's more signal. That's basically what makes HD TV or 4K versus is how much signal is going. We're increasing that signal in the brain. We put that in originally to counteract brain fog that fatty liver people have. But we realized that's just on its own, a lot of people love the product for that. Then you combine it with its second pillar, which is its strongest one, which is based off of liver regeneration, liver function, and making the liver operate really well. And just as the human body is, you have to look at it holistically, or people ask me, what's the key ingredient? Well, there isn't one. It's like a symphony, right? A wonderful symphony isn't necessarily the violin or the cello or even the conductor. It's everything congruently.
How they work together.
Synchronization together. So we're working on things from oxidation in the blood, spleen, bile production, kidney function. How is it affecting your energy, your chi? What's happening with this molecule and this molecule to invigorate this mechanism of action in the body? How are you metabolizing liver fat? So it's increasing your liver's function so that your liver's functioning in its most optimal state. That's what our key is we use passive approach to help the body do what it does. And then thirdly, most people in life, besides being dehydrated and a lot of things, are under constant inflammation. And inflammation feeds oxidative stress. And oxidative stress feeds inflammation. So we get stuck in this vicious circle that, one's feeding the other and we're in this constant state. So we put in some of the herbs and plants that are in there, or they're specifically as anti-inflammatories, but also off the charts high with antioxidants to go after free radicals. That's why we do a lot with cancer patients or repairing alcohol damage or drug damage, but is getting rid of it. So feeding your body with antioxidants that are bioavailable and that are being absorbed. And, we looked at a thing called an ORAC score, which is like an FDA, US, very kind of a global way to look at it, is how many antioxidants in a product.
Oh, okay.
And that was interesting. We're off the charts, like 450% higher than lion's mane. And lion's mane's amazing. We're much more molecularly complex than resveratrol. But then we took it a step further and we did this assay called AbleRac. And what that is that's not just looking at how many antioxidants are in the product, what's happening in the cells post-metabolization and post-consumption. Because, just because you take a lot of nutrients doesn't mean you're absorbing them. What's happening into the body afterwards? So we actually go very deep in the science to see not only how the formula is constructed, how it's processed, but how it exited, but also what's happening in the body afterwards. So we spend millions and millions of science and studies and clinical observations to further the science, to constantly be innovating. And that's what the product does. And I keep it in a liquid because when you're in a liquid, you have a lot more of the bioenergy and the way that the plants deal with each other and the plant essences and the compounds and the molecules and the polyphenols. When you go into powder, you lose a lot of that. And so we keep it in liquid. We use nanotechnology both in extraction, refinement. One of the key ingredients comes from this type of sea kelp that only grows in one place on the planet. And it has this molecule in it that's just super, super high antioxidant. We have to take 1,000 kilos of that. We harvest it down to 1 kilo. So size of this room down to basically a block this big. Then we distill that 4 times and we get 1 gram. So we'll actually go to 1 part per million to pull that super molecule out to put in here. And that's just one of 17 ingredients.
Yeah.
We're really passionate about efficacy. And we, a lot of supplements, they say, science says this supplement's really good, so you should take it. Right? We take it a step further. We actually test you before and after. I was talking to this great formulator, and he said, I put this fantastic formula together, and it's going to do this. I'm like, amazing. How do you know? Well, he's like, what do you mean? I said, well, how do you know what it's actually doing once somebody's consumed it? Like, well, but it does all this.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, but what happens afterwards?
Right.
We look at the afterwards.
Sure.
So we're looking at both sides. I want to see what's happening to your blood, your cells, your liver, your tissue, your skin. Right? You want to track the data to make things more efficacious because improving somebody's health and preventing somebody from getting ill is like an incredibly noble, important thing to do. You better do it with love, with passion, with science, with facts, with data.
Exactly. And when people say someone comes in with a fiber score of like 3.
Yeah.
How long, if they take the product as recommended, how long would it take them to kind of reverse that?
So the mental clarity thing I told you, you'll feel right away.
Right.
Which is, I was just with this, I was at an incredible event. And the host of the event says, why I love Deliverance is I can feel it right away.
Yeah,
very few
for
supplements you can feel. In the first couple of weeks, you'll start to notice sleep improve, hair, skin improves, mental clarity. But then as soon as 3 months, we want to scan you again or run bloods. We used to say 6 months, but I think at 3 months, we're going to see so much that we'll then track it. So if somebody's got, let's say, an F2 or more scarring or severe fatty liver disease, it might be 2 bottles a day. But once we get you to the green, you come down to 1 bottle a day and you stay there. You never want to give somebody more of anything than they need. And we track that. So I would say you'd want to come back at 3 months or 6 months. And then once you're healthy, stay just once a year. Same thing with cholesterol. We have a lot of clients that are we call them statin hesitant.
Yes.
Which is where they've been told to go on the statins and they don't want to.
Right.
Or they're on statins and they want to come off. And once your liver's functioning really well, we've had a lot of clients that have come off of statins or don't go on, and just by keeping the liver healthy as your baseline, as your most important organ, you don't need as many other things as well.
So with people that are statin hesitant, but they need to be on a statin or some form of cholesterol lowering, do you suggest taking it once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day?
Once to twice a day, depending on it as well. And I've done this for myself, and I've actually experienced it with Next Health and with some of the best. If you have a high cholesterol, go get a coronary CT scan.
Yeah, that's what we do, right?
Get your score, run it through clearly, and because we have so many patients, the doctor says I need to be on a statin. We're like, well, how do you know? Well, my cholesterol's high.
Absolutely.
What's happening? What's your CCR score? What's clearly saying, right?
Yeah.
Check that before you do that as well, because you might need a statin. But I could definitely tell you that the future of medicine, and what should be, is also very bespoke medicine. We should do is run a pharmacology DNA test where they take your DNA and they cross-reference it against all the other known drugs. I have a good buddy that I was with last night. He was on a statin for 16 years. Then once he did this test, he realized it wasn't doing anything.
Doesn't do anything, right?
But now you can look at your DNA. That's the future, right, of medicine, is
Absolutely.
matching your DNA and your genetics to the compound that will give the effect and the result.
Right.
Now, one size does not fit all with medicine.
Absolutely. It needs to be hyper-personalized for sure. And that's kind of, like you said, treating something that's just a number, you want to make sure you're actually trying to achieve a specific trackable effect. And so the calcium score, the liver scan are great ways to track what is the effect that you're actually having on someone's biology by doing this, by lowering their cholesterol, by whatever you might be doing.
Yeah, well, there's both sides. There's some people are very left-brained, right? So they're very much, I want to see the data. What am I having in my scores? Some people are very right-brained, and how am I feeling? Some people, both are more important. The ultimate is both. You want to see your data getting better. You want to be feeling better. And as you said earlier, right, waking up and feeling great is like, how important is that? Most people run around in life doing everything they can to feel better, whether that's how they dress, or they go to the gym, or they laugh with their friends, or they read a book, or they go to school. Like, we're all looking to be happy. And if you're waking up feeling good, you're already halfway there.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what's next for you, Siggi? What are you going to, I know we're doing the liver scans at Next Health. We're using your product and also lifestyle change to really change people's lives by getting their liver health in order. I think it's a massive foundational part of health. And what are you going to do next with your company? Where are you taking it?
Well, trying to make the liver famous, letting people know about it, curating, I think, the best medical and health and practitioners, and such as yourself and your clinics, to help spread that word by places that are known, liked, and trusted, and that they've got that integrity. Partnering with those people and those organizations to spread that word, continually educating, innovating. There's some charity stuff that we want to do. You go into these Hispanic communities, especially along the border and stuff, where maybe 80% of them have fatty liver because they're eating cheap calories. They can't afford this level of healthcare to do it. Doing some outreach programs. We'll cruise up in a Sprinter van and a tent, do some scans and try to get people knowledge, and direct people. Maybe here's some dietary changes you can make. I'm a huge proponent of stem cells, both for health, for longevity, for regeneration. Between diagnostics and stem cells, that's really the future of medicine and bespoking it. The common theme is that cirrhosis is irreversible, and I say nay to that. I think in the future, we're already starting to work on protocols and go down the road. I think we'll be able to go in to a cirrhosis patient that was maybe going to get a transplant or may not make it. Half the people on the liver transplant list don't make it. Right. Because they're too sick and they don't live long enough to do that. Is going in with like ultrasound-guided stem cell therapy right into where the fibrosis is to start to regenerate those dead cells, open up those pathways and reverse liver health. For me, that's like really exciting future stuff to do. Yeah. That's exciting. Yeah. Exciting times for sure. Exciting times for sure. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on the podcast, Siggi. This has been great. Great conversation on liver health.
I agree. We need to make the liver famous. It needs to be, we talk about the heart all the time and the brain. We talk about the liver.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And where can people find you and find Deliverance and the liver clinic?
So our URL is loveyourliver.com, which I love the tag because it's a great name in it. Liverclinic.com is where we do the scanning, and then through partners such as Next Health. So next week we're going to be training the LA staff. Then we're flying to New York to train the New York staff to get them as part of the protocol. And as we're London based, but we're now moving to the US. So we're going to be expanding. The website's the best for now. Where your providers, healthcare, ask your functional medicine doctor, ask your integrative medicine doctor. Write us an email. Happy to help. Give a consult. We're here to help on any level, whether it be just some good and positive advice, all the way up through if we need to hold your hand up through an MRI to a liver specialist.
That's fantastic.
We have clients that everything from advice to a transplant, we'll help guide if we can. When we can.
And I'm really happy to have joined your scientific team. And I'm so impressed with the level of knowledge on the team and the doctors that you've brought on the team. And I think, you have a huge amount of expertise there. And it's great that you're opening that up to people out there that are suffering and don't have answers on their liver. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful work.
Great. Well, can't wait to have you on again. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, man.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.